All right, so I'm going to do 3 sample problems for you guys. When you see a question like this where you have, a fraction equals a fraction, a lot of people like to think of this as cross multiplying. So they would say, okay, multiply these two. Rather than thinking of it like that, I want to think about it as multiplying 4 to this side so that my denominator, what you do to one side, you have to do the other side, right? So I'm going to multiply 4 to this side. And that way on this side, my denominator will go ahead and cancel or reduce, really. So then I'm going to do the same thing where I multiply 3x minus 7 to both sides, 3x minus 7 to this side. And what happens is the 3x minus 7 and the 3x minus 7 here cancel or reduce. So what I'm left with is what a lot of people call that cross multiply, where you're going to get 4 times 4x minus 1 equals 7 times 3x minus 7. Okay? And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and solve. I'm going to get 16x minus 4. I'm going to get 21x minus 49. And then I'm going to move all of my x's to one side. So I'm actually going to move 21x to this side. So I'm going to subtract it to the other side. I'm going to get 16 minus 21, which gives me a negative 5x. Then I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And that's going to give me negative 49 plus 4 is a negative 45. So when I divide by 5 as my final step here, negative 5, when I divide by negative 5, I'm going to get that x equals positive 9. Okay, so that's the first type of question that we have. The second one is where we're going to multiply by the lowest common denominator or the lowest common multiple, whatever you want to call it. You're going to want to find the denominator that will cancel everything. So the lowest common multiple for our denominator is going to be 2x, because x is part of 2x, right? And 2 is part of 2x. So if I multiply everything by 2x, you will see that all the denominators cancel. So I'm going to write this, or reduce. I hate saying cancel, but... So I'm going to multiply this by 2x, I'm going to multiply this by 2x, and I'm going to multiply this by 2x. So what I get is this x and this x will reduce out. Both of these, the 2x and the 2x, will reduce out, and the 2 and the 2 will reduce. And notice all of my denominators are simplifying, and now we don't have any. So what do I have left? I have 2 times 3x minus 4 plus 3 equals x. And then I go ahead and I solve this. It's so much nicer when all those denominators reduce out. And how did we find it? Well, there was an x and there was a 2x. Well, the 2x already had the x in common, and there was a 2. So the one that all of these would go into is that 2x, right? All 3 of those would go into 2x. Let me clean this up a little bit. Here we go. So go ahead and distribute. What is that? 6x minus 8 plus 3 equals x. 6x minus 5 equals x, because I combine those two. Then, let's see, move the x to one side, so I'm going to subtract the x. What is that? 5x minus 5 equals 0. So add 5 to the other side. I'm adding that negative 5, so add 5 to both sides. This is what I'll get, and I'll get x equals 1. Okay, one of the things we need to do is check for extraneous solutions. We need to check if when we plug this back in, if any of the denominators will give me 0. Remember, you can't divide by a 0, so you have to plug in that number. Well, if I plug in 1 here, I don't get 0 in the denominator. If I plug in 1 here, I don't get 0 as the denominator. So this is good. I still have this works. In fact, I don't think on this last one that I checked, I didn't take this 9 and plug it back in and make sure I wouldn't get 0 on the bottom. So what would I get? I would get 3 times 9 minus 7. Okay, that's not 0, so I'm okay. This solution is a solution. Okay, you have to make sure you check for those extraneous solutions, which just means your denominator would be 0 in this case because you can't divide by 0. So in this last problem type, we already have a common denominator amongst 2 of these. So what I'm going to do is essentially multiply by that common denominator, which is that x minus 6, x minus 6, and x minus 6. So when I do that, notice that this one and this one are going to reduce, this one and this one are going to reduce, and these just need to be multiplied. So what do I have? I have negative 3 times, x minus 6 minus 6 equals x. And now this is something very easy that we can solve. So a negative 3x plus 18 minus 6 equals x. Negative 3x plus 12 equals x. I'm going to subtract that x to the other side. Negative 4x plus 12, equals 0. And then negative 4x, I'm going to subtract 12 to the other side, so I would get negative 4x equals negative 12, so x equals 3. Okay, make sure that's not an extraneous solution. Plug it back into your denominators. We're good. It doesn't give me zeros, so there's my solution. Hopefully these examples helped.